Hey Scotty, did you see we got the new Wilds of Eldraine products? Yeah, I know, I'm really excited. So which one do you want to start with? Okay, let's go with that one. Hello everybody and welcome to yet another one of our unboxings. Thank you very much Scotty for that intro as usual. And today we will be having a first look at the draft booster box of the Wilds of Eldraine. This is gonna set off and kick off our unboxings for the booster packs that you can find in this wonderful beautiful set. I have sat at the pre-release and have had a couple of these ones, and yeah, they're really fun. I really love the theme of this set. I love the original Throne of Eldraine expansion, and honestly I am looking forward to opening this set and going down the rabbit hole with you to just experience it. As usual, these ones are made in Belgium, so printing will be different if you're in the States. Now, if you're new to the series, usually how we unbox these things is we take our time, we go through every card that we have not seen before, we read it out, we give you our opinion on the cards themselves and how good they are in the different formats, and then we move forward from there. And once we start seeing more cards of the same kind, we just read out the names. Yeah, that's basically it. Let's relax and enjoy together this wonderful opening as we start off at our unboxing for these wonderful boosters. So I hope you guys have had a lot of fun at your pre-release if you did attend, or maybe you're playing the Throne of Eldraine set in Arena at the moment. Do let me know in the comments down below what you actually like of it, because I really do love this set. Now, it starts off as such. We get the archetype for the draft. Of course, these are draft boosters, so they're aimed at draft players. Now, the archetypes, if you're interested in them, you can pause and then read them on your own, and it's really beautiful art as usual. And then on the back we get the introduction to the Enchanting Tales, beautiful arts and beautiful cards, and voila. Now, if you're new to Magic the Gathering and don't know it, draft booster boxes and overall draft booster packs are aimed at those that want to try and draft properly. So there will be a lot more commons and uncommons that you would get compared to set boosters and collector packs as well. And therefore, if you're interested for more overall value and bang for your buck, you should go maybe for set boosters or even collector boosters. But if you're looking for fun with your friends for drafting, or just overall having an experience of opening draft boosters, then by all means go for it. So we will start off with our first pack and let's get cracking. Now our first pack has a Territorial Witchstalker, which we already saw in our pre-release. Then we have the Diminisher Witch, which is a 3/2 for free, has Bargain, and Bargain is a new ability. That means that whenever you cast this, you may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token to cast a spell, and then you get extra abilities if you bargain. And so when it enters the battlefield, if you bargain, you get to create a Cursed Roll token attached to target creature an opponent controls. Now, Cursed Roll is a part of the new rolls, which are aura enchantment rolls that you can attach to specific creatures. You can only have one aura enchantment rolls attached per creature, and that's about it. Then we get Charm Clothier as a 3/3 fairy advisor. It costs 5 and then has flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a royal roll attached to another target creature you control. This gives +1/+1 and also ward 1. The course roll before it actually makes the card a 1/1. Forgot to say. Then we have the Merry Bards. Is a 3/2. It costs 3. It's a human bard. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you may pay 1 generic, and when you do, you create a young hero roll token attached to target creature. And this says that if the toughness is 3 or less, you put a +1/+1 counter on it whenever you attack, which is really good because effectively you can go up to 4/4 or even more, 5/4, whatever you want, and that's another roll. Then we get Field the Cauldron. This is an instant. It costs 3. Destroy target creature with mana value 3 or less, which is actually pretty good removal in the set, as there are quite a few creatures in this mana range. And then if it's your turn, you create a food token, so it synergizes with the food aspect, and green-black as well synergizes with food, but there are a few more interactions with it. Then we get Hollow Scavenger. This is the first adventure that we see as a 3/2 wolf that costs 3, and for 1 generic you sacrifice a food and it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, and then you can only activate it once per turn. And on the other side you have an adventure that's a sorcery, and you create a food token. It's called Bakery Raid. Very fun card, very lovely theme. I love it. Then we get the Evolving Wilds. This is a classic, and we get Freeze in Place. Tap target creature an opponent controls and put 3 stun counters on it. It's an okay spell. There are better. Then we get Plunge into Winter. It's an instant. He gets to tap up to 1 target creature and scry 1, then draw a card. Actually not bad in some combination of decks. This is not the best one, but the cantrip and scrying is always a nice one, so it's a good interaction. Graceful Takedown is a first uncommon. It's a sorcery, costs 2. Any number of target enchanted creatures you control and up to 1 target creature you control each deal damage equal to their power to target creature you don't control. So this is kind of like a fight spell, very decent, and you're going to have quite a few enchanted creatures, so it's not going to be too hard. Then we get Discerning Financier, which is a way to ramp. It's a 2/3 that costs 3 at the beginning of your upkeep. If an opponent controls more lands than you create a treasure token. Then the second ability we don't really care much about, because for 3 you choose another player. That player gets control of target treasure you control, you draw a card. Now, of course, if you're playing the late game, then the second ability, maybe because they already have a lot of lands, doesn't matter, but for you it's good. And then remember, Bargain also works on artifacts, so you can sack treasure tokens for Bargain. And we get Ice Frost Sentry, which is a really good card. It's a 2/3 elemental soldier for draft, of course. It costs 3, has vigilance. Whenever it attacks, you may pay 2, effectively making it a 5 cost if you count the accumulated mana over the 2 different turns. And when you do tap target creature an opponent controls, and when you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, Ice Frost Sentry becomes a 4/4 until the end of turn. And then we get one of the first beautiful showcase cards. This is Horned Lock Whale, and this is a showcase version of it. It's a 6/6 flash creature with Ward 2, and it costs 6. And when it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield tapped unless it's your turn. So you can flash it onto your opponent's turn, tap, and then you untap it. So you can't use it as a defensive creature on the opponent's turn. And then as an adventure side, it has Lagoon Breach, which is a 2-instant adventure. The owner of target attacking creature you don't control puts it at the top or bottom of the library. It's not a bad one. Top or bottom is okay. It's not a bad overall creature, and the power matters deck, and you have a good way to ramp in the Simic aspect, but it's still not the best, but it's a decent rare and I like it. Next we get Polluted Bonds, our first Enchanting Tale. It costs 5 as an enchantment, of course, and all enchanting tales are enchantments. And whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, that player loses 2 life, you gain 2 life. Actually pretty good to lock them down in a draft situation. It's actually not bad, because what ends up happening is maybe at the beginning they don't really care, but by turn 5 and 6, if you chop down their life, they're going to be thinking, oh well, I can't really put too many lands in play, and it's going to stunt the growth of their top end. So it's going to make it really painful for them, and it's going to give you an advantage. So it's not bad. Then we get one of those light boxes lands. This is a mountain. This is quite beautiful. And remember, people, they actually, Hari and Deep Tea, what they did is they did this by hand. So they actually cut out all the paper and cardboard and layered it out, and then put a light behind it and lit it up. So this is a labor of love, just like every other art, and I really love these lands. And then we get a Knight token with vigilance. Very beautiful Knight, very nice. Okay, next up we continue on. As we see more cards, we'll start speeding up. Of course, at the beginning we're having to explain a bit more things that we do really love deep diving into sets. Torch the Tower, we've seen this in our pre-release. It's a very, very good interaction, especially if you can bargain for it. Wrought Out, another great one that we've seen in the pre-release. Extremely good for the right kind of deck, because it gets the token in -1, so it can actually stun certain creatures really quickly, and it can enable you. I've used it successfully in the pre-release And yeah, I thought it would be underwhelming, and it wasn't. Sky Beast Tracker is a 2/4 that costs 4. It has reach. It's a giant archer, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you get a food token. Of course, this interacts with the 5+ semi-cooler out. Then we get Sleight of Hand, which was seen in our unboxings. Then we have Cooped Up, very good prison effect that you can also exile in the enchanted creature. You are still the controller of this enchantment, so your opponents cannot destroy it, but should they want to destroy this enchantment, then you can always leave leeway of mana up to exile the creature. So it's a very good prison, and it's always annoying to have to fight against. Gingerboot, one of the best commons. It's a 1/1 for 1, has haste, and then if you pay an extra, you can't block the Gingerboot unless it's blocked by creatures with haste. So definitely a great card to play. And then you can sacrifice it because it's a food and get 3 life. Very good card, definitely. Leap in Ambush is an instant. Target creature gets +1/+3 and gains reach until the end of turn, and you can untap it. Not a bad one, but there's better. Johan's Stopgap, very good sorcery. Costs 4, you can bargain for it. If you did, it costs 2 less, and return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. The Royal Treatment, this is kind of like a Veil of Summer. It's an instant, it costs 1 green. Target creature you control gains hexproof until the end of turn, and then you put a royal token on it, meaning that it gets +1/+1 and also ward 1. So it's quite a good one. Then we get Threadbind Click, which is a flying fairy that costs 4, is a 3/3, and it also is an adventure. And an adventure side, it's a white Rip the Seams instant that costs 3, and it destroys target type creature. Quite a good one if you splash for it, or if you're playing the Azurius combination. Azurius combination is not the strongest, but if you play with some of the better cards and splash for them, then you can have a decent amount of control. Then we get Sir Armon the Redeemer, which we've seen already. It anthems all your creatures, and it puts a monster roll, which is very nice on a creature control. Raging Battle Mouse, which I think should have haste because it's a bit of an overwhelming creature. It's a 2/1 that costs 2. Second spell you cast each turn costs 1 generic less to cast, which is fine. Then for Celebration, at the beginning of combat your turn, if 2 or more non-land permanents enter the battlefield on your control, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. It's okay. It's not the greatest of rares. Then we get Curiosity, a very good enchantment. This is an aura enchant creature. Whenever an enchanted creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. So very good, and also very powerful in our set. Ooh, and then we get a foil Stroke of Midnight. I foresee this one becoming a staple in Commander because it's a generous gift, but it's giving your opponent a 1/1 white human creature token when you destroy a non-land permanent instead of a 3/3. Costs the same, has the same speed, very nice, and it's also our first foil. Then we get a normal mounted and food. That looks actually really good food. Okay, moving on. Next we have Harried Spearguard. It's a 1/1 human soldier with haste, and when it dies you create a rat. It's not bad actually for the rat combination Rakdos. Sweet Tooth Witch, this is really good for the food deck. It's a 3/2 that costs 3, and when it enters the battlefield you create a food token, and then you can tap to sack a food token. Target player loses 2 life, and it can spiral out of hand if you have combo for it with the synergies of the food in your deck. Brave the Wilds is a 1 green sorcery. It has Bargain. You may sacrifice an artifact, enchantment, or token for it, and it has Bargain. And then if this spell was Bargain for you, target land you control becomes a 3/3 elemental with haste until the end of turn. Oh no, it's not until the end of turn. Okay, it's just becomes a 3/3 elemental with haste, and then you search your library for a basic land card, you reveal and put it in your hand, then shuffle. So good for mana ramping, or at least mana fixing, depending on how you play it. Then we get Obira's Attendance, which is a 3/4 with flying that costs 5. Always good in limited. And then as an instant, you have Desperate Parry, which is target creature gets a -4/-0 until the end of turn. It's an instant speed, and it only costs 2. Not bad. The fairy part is stronger, to be fair. Frost Bridge Guard, very good card. It's a nicey manipulator. It's a 2/2 that costs 2, and on top of that you can tap it and tap 3 and tap target creature. Very good on the late game and very good in the early game. Monstrosity, this is another one that I really like, and it gets out of hand because it's a 3/1 that costs only 2, and since the 1/1 rat tokens are like the mites, and Phyrexian will be 1, which means that they cannot block. This one well, it can trade up fairly easily. So definitely a good card to have, and when it dies you create a food token, so it's really good synergy. It's unfortunate that it's not a food himself, but it's fine. Then we get Kindled Heroism. It's an instant for 1 red. Target creature gets +1/+0 and first strike until the end of turn and scry 1. It's okay. Toadstool Admirer is a 1/1 4/1 Ward 2, and then for 4 you can put a +1/+1 counter on him. It might be okay to use in the ramp deck, but overall not a great one. Voracious Vermin is great for the Rakdos deck. It's a 2/1 that costs 3. When it says battlefield, you create a 1/1 black rat creature token, and whenever another creature you control dies, you can put a counter on him and it stays there. So very, very, very good card. Even if it's just synergizing with token creatures dying, it's really good. Disdainful Stroke. This is a classic. It's an instant. It costs 2. Counter attack a spell with mana value 4 or greater. So good for the control. And this is Twisted Sewer Witch. Extremely good for the rats deck. It's a 3/4 that costs 5. When it enters the battlefield, you get to create 1 rat. And then for each rat you control, that rat becomes a wicked rat with a +1/+1, and whenever they die, the opponent loses 1 life for each of these enchantments and goes into the graveyard. So very, very good card. And then we get Witchstalker Frenzy. It's a 4-caster instant spell. It costs 1 generic plus to cast for each creature that attacks this turn, and it deals 5 damage to target creature. Actually very, very good damage. Ooh, then we get our first mythic, and this is Hilda of the Icy Crown. This is a 3/4 human warlock that costs 4, and whenever, as Azurius, whenever you tap an untapped creature you control, whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent's control, you may pay 1 generic, and when you do, you choose 1, and you do that with many spells that you have. You create either a 4/4 white and blue elemental creature token, which one can spiral out of proportion if you can build it right. Then, or you put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control, so that's insane, and then scry 2 and draw a card. Very good card overall. And now we also see one of the anime art Enchanting Tales. This is called Nature's Will. It's a rare one and costs 4. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control, you can combat damage to a player. Tap all lands that player controls and untap all lands you control. Very nice little enchantment and kind of nasty if you ask me. Next we get a forest and a birdie bird token. Next up, let's see what we get. Okay, Redcap Thief, Stingblade Assassin, which is a decent one. It's a 3/1 fairy that costs 4. Fairy Assassin has flash and flying, and whenever it enters battlefield, destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn that an opponent controls. Very good. I actually like this in my black splash. Curse of the Werefox. This is a 3 sorcery. Create monster roll attached to a creature you control. That creature fights a creature that you don't control. The monster roll is +1/+1 and trample. So it's not bad. It's not the greatest. It's a bit expensive, but it gives it a +1/+1 counter on it. Misleading Motes, or Will the Wisps, I guess. It's a 4 casting instant. Target creature's owner puts it on the top or bottom of the library. Again, it's meh. It can be really annoying, but there are better spells. This is a great one. Hopeful Vigil costs only 2. You get to create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance, which we saw earlier, and then whenever it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you scry 2 and you can sack it for 3, and it's an enchantment, so you can always bargain for it and get a 2/1. Crystal Grotto. This is a mana fixer, not the best one, but it's okay. Stormkeld Prowler, we've seen it before. It's a 5+ big creature spell. And then Water Wings. This is an instant. It costs 2 until the end of turn. Target creature you control has base, power, and toughness for 4, gets flying, and has proof. Actually could be a good spell in certain deck. I think it's actually pretty good because it does 3 things, right? So yeah, it's not bad. Next we get Sugar Rush. It's an okay instant buff spell. Costs 2. Target creature gets +3/+0 until the end of turn. You draw a card, so it's a cantrip. Then we get Obira, Dreaming Duelist, which is a Dimir coster, and then it's a 2/2 fairy warrior with flash flying, and whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses a life. Not bad for the tribal aspect, and it's overall it's a 2/2 for 2 with flash and flying, so that's always decent if you're in those colors to control your opponent. Then we get Ember Veteran, is a 1 caster 2/1 human knight, and it's 1 generic to sack it and give a young hero roll to a target creature. That's not bad. Then we get Tough Cookie, one of the better uncommons And the set is a 2/2 that costs 2. It's a food. And enters the battlefield, you create another food token on top of that. And then for 3, target non-creature artifact you control becomes a 4/4 artifact creature until the end of turn. Essentially, you can make food artifacts into a 4/4s, and you don't have to tap him, so you can still attack and do the second part as well if you need it, which is sacrificing it to get 3 life. Then we get the Virtue of Courage, another mythic. This is the red virtue. There are 1 per each color, and they're all adventure enchantments. And on the adventure side, you have Embereth Blaze. It costs 2. It's an instant. Embereth Blaze deals 2 damage to any target, and then for 5, whenever a source you control deals a non-combat damage to an opponent, you may exile that many cards from the top of your library, and you may play those cards this turn. Very nice. There can be some interactions with your deck, even in draft for that. Sanguine Bond, very good enchantment. Costs 5. Whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. There are quite a few combos with this one in Commander, so it's a very good card. Then we get an island and a food. So far, I'm very happy. Okay, let's see what else do we get here. Frantic Firebolt, we saw this in our pre-release. Candy Grapple, another one of the great commons for sealed. It costs 2 as an instant, you can bargain for it, and you give -3/-3 to a creature, or -5/-5 if you bargain. Very good. Also, I really love the art and the flavor, and it says, don't you mean it's poisonous? There's no such thing as venom. Ah! Yeah, so there you go. And then you get Verdant Outrider. It's a 4/2 that costs 3. It's a human knight. It costs 2 to have it not be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less this turn. It's a bit expensive to pump that much mana into this creature, and it trades down too easily otherwise. Merfolk Coralsmith is a 2/3 and costs 3, and for 1 generic, it gets +1/-1 until the end of turn, and then when it dies, you scry 2. It's okay, there are better. Charm Clothier, Aquatic Alchemist, which I really like. It's an adventure creature. It has on the creature side a 1/3 that costs 2 elemental. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, it gets +2/+0, making it a 3/3. Very good. And then on the adventure side, it has Bubble Up. It costs 3. It's a sorcery adventure. Put target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard on top of your library. Very good in Isn't, and overall, any spell decks that are even the mirror, any control decks, there's very good for drafting. Then we get Hamlet Glutton. It's a 6/6 giant, costs 7. You can bargain to make it cost 2 less. Has trample when enters the battlefield. You gain 3 life. It's a big dumb creature if you need it. This is a great one. Fell Horseman is a 3/3 that costs 4. When it dies, you put it on the bottom of its owner's library, and then you can sorcery on the adventure side for 2, returning target creature card from graveyard to hand. I really like this one. Then we get Red Tooth Genealogist or Gynecologist. This is a 2/3 alpha advisor, costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you create a royal token attached to another creature you control. Not bad. It pumps up another creature, so that's very nice. Then we get Corvold and the Noble Thief. You create, it's a saga enchantment, and it costs 4. For the first 2 steps, you create a treasure token, so that's always very good. And then for 3, for the third step, you exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. You may play those cards this turn. Very good. I actually like that card. Tangle Span Lookout. This is good for enchantment auras. It's a 2/3 that costs 3, and whenever an aura enters the battlefield under control, you draw a card. Then we get Taken by Nightmares, which is an interaction that we've seen before. Very good removal. And the end. This is an instant that costs 4. It costs 2 generic less if you have 5 or less life whenever you cast it, and then exile target creature or planeswalker. Then you search its controller, graveyard, hand, and library for a number of cards with the same name and permanent exile those as well, and that player shuffles and draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. I think this is going to be more of maybe a standard maybe Pioneer, although it's a bit slow card, but yeah, otherwise it's not a bad removal. It's good to have an extra removal. Then we get oh, that's a rare, by the way, sorry. And then we get Impact Tremors. This is an enchantment, cost 2. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent you control, and it synergizes with Virtue of Courage and other spells that we have. And then we have an island in a beautiful light box and a treasure. Okay, next up, what do we get? Again, Rat Out, Brave the Wilds, Balluna's Gatekeeper is a 6/5 for 6, and on the adventure side, you tap 2, it's a sorcery, return target creature you don't control with mana value 3 or less to its owner's hand. It's a bounce spell. It's very good for limited, I believe, because it's very good both sides. Then we get Archon's Glory. You can bargain for this and it's really strong, otherwise it's not that great. It's an instant, it costs 1, target creature gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, but if you bargain for it, it actually gains flying and lifelink on top of that, making it quite a good card if you bargain. Then we get Flick a Coin, which deals 1 damage to any target. You create a treasure token and draw a card, and it costs 3, so it's a 3 for 1. It's not bad. Then we get Ginger Brute again. Break the Spell, very good in this set. Destroy target enchantment, it's an instant, it only costs 1 white. If a player you control or a token was destroyed this way, you draw a card, you can do it on your own stuff as well. Then we get Besotted Knight is a 3/3 for 4, and on the adventure side, you can cast a sorcery that costs 1 and create a royal token attached to a target creature you control. I think this is a very good card. Then we get Archive Dragon, another very good card. It's a 4/6 dragon wizard, costs 6, has flying, ward 2, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2, so definitely a good one for the right deck. Then we get Ashok's Reaper, 3/3 for 4. Whenever enchantment you control is put into a graveyard from battlefield, you draw a card. It can be good depending if you have enchantments, otherwise it's just a 3/3 for 4. Then we get Sir Armon, and Tangled Colony is a 3/2 rat that costs 2. It cannot block, and whenever it dies, you put X 1/1 black creature rat tokens in play with this creature can block, where X is the amount of damage dealt to it this turn. So however much damage it gets in the defense, then it will, or if you blow it up, it cares that many tokens. And then we get Dark Tutelage, which is an enchantment, costs 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can reveal top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Very double-edged sword, because you cannot play that card unless you have a sack outlet, because otherwise you're going to be losing life really quickly in draft. Then we get a Foil Plains, and a beautiful Foil Plains, and a mountain, and then a roll token. Okay, next up we have, what do we have? We're almost done with the first third. Shatter the Oath, very beautiful color, seen before. Hallow Scavenger, Merfolk Coralsmith, Hopeful Vigil, Torch the Tower, Grand Bowl Guest, which is a 2/2 for 2 with Celebration. It gets +1/+1 and Trample if you celebrate it, which is another one of the new abilities. Water Rings, Toadstool Admirer. Then we get Knight of the Sweet's Revenge. This is a fun one. This is a forecaster enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, you get to create a food token. Then foods you control become mana rocks for green, and then for 7 you sacrifice it. Creatures you control get +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of foods you control. Activate only as a sorcery. I like this one. If you're playing the right deck, it can be really strong. Then we get Splashy Spellcaster, is a 2/4 elemental wizard, costs 4. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you create a sorcery roll token attached to up to one of your target creatures you control. This can be really good in the right deck, especially Izzet or the Mirror. Imogene's Recruiter is a 2/2 for 3, and it's an adventure as well. When Imogene's Recruiter enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until the end of turn, and then it's creatures, so you can get the same treatment. And then on the adventure side, it costs 5, and it's a sorcery. You create 2/2 White Knight creature tokens with Vigilance, so you're gonna have to hold off to cast this if you want to use that. It's okay, but there's better. Then we get Feral Encounter. It's a 2 green sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may exile a creature card from among them, put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card this way, and at the beginning of your next combat phase, of course this turn, target creature you control deals combat damage equal to its power to up to 1 target creature you don't control. It's a bit of a weird fight spell, and yeah, it's not bad. Ooh, wow, now this is lucky and very good card. We get Blood Moon. That's amazing. Non-basic lands are mountain. This is an enchantment that costs 3. This is a wonderful enchantment. I don't know that you want to play it in draft, but because there's not much to play in a limited in general. But yeah, then we get a Hamlet Glutton and foil, and then an island and an adventure token. So that was really, really lucky for us. The Blood Moon, that was a great pull. It's one of the best enchanting tales that you can get in the set. Definitely something that's worth having. Then we get Hopeless Nightmares. So 1 caster enchantment, black. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, loses 2 life, and when it's put into graveyard from the battlefield, you scry 2. Not bad if you can sacrifice it, you scry 2, and then opponents discard a card, lose 2 life. So it's not bad at all. I believe that the white one is better. Sky Beast Tracker, Misleading Mode, Twin Veil Guide, which we've seen in our pre-release, Red Cap Thief, Johann Stopgap, Skewer Slinger, which is a 1/3 for 2, has reach, is a Dwarf Knight, and whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, it deals 1 damage to that creature, effectively making it unblockable by smaller creatures. Not bad, but not the greatest. Then we get Spider Food. It's a sorcery. Cost 3, disrupt to 1 target artifact enchantment creature with flying, create a food token. That's not bad. It's a sorcery speed, so meh. Hearth Elemental. This is a 4/5 elemental, cost 6, and it's an adventure. This creature spell costs X+ to cast, where X is the number of cards in graveyard that are instant and sorcery cards and or have an adventure. Again, this is for all graveyards. And then on the adventure side, it's red and it costs 2. It's a sorcery, Soak Genius. Discard your hand and draw 2 cards. Very good card. I like this one. Then we get Cheeky House Mouse. Is a 2/1 for 1, and then Sweet By for 1 white. It's a sorcery adventure. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 till the end of turn and cannot be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater this turn. It's a meh creature. Then we get Stone Splitter Bolt, which is an X and red instant. You can bargain for it. It deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If the spell was bargained for, instead it deals twice that much damage. I actually like this spell. It's fairly good in limited. Wow. No, wow. We've gotten really lucky with this draft. Besiege the Mirror. This is the most sought after card of the set that is not part of the Enchanting Tales sheet. Besiege the Mirror is a sorcery, cost 4 with 3 black pips. As bargain, you search your library for a card, you exile it face down, then you shuffle. If the spell was bargained for, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. If the spell mana value is 4 or less, put that exile card into your hand if it wasn't cast this way. So basically it's a tutor, and on top of that, if you tutor something that's 4 or less, you get to cast it for free, and otherwise you don't have to. So this is a very good card. Absolutely lucky there. And then we get Force Fruition. This costs 6. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player draws 7 cards. Okay, I don't really see the point of this, but hey up. Then we get a foil rare. We have Red Cup Gutter Dweller. Is a 3/3 Goblin Warrior that costs 4. It's great for the Rakdos deck. It has menace when it enters the battlefield. Also, it's very dark. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 black rat tokens, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, you can put a +1/+1 counter on it and exile the top card of your library, and you may play that card this turn. It's actually pretty good and limited. I like it. And then we get a forest and a birdie bird. And so far we've gotten very lucky. Yeah, we have 3 enchantments that were mythic that are really good. Then we get Borrow Naughty, which is a 1/3 for 2. It has flying and lifelink as long as you control another fairy, so you want to synergize with that. And then for 3, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn, and you don't have to tap it. So in the long run, if you're playing control and you don't have long spells, in the turn 7, 8, 9, whatever the hell my turn might be, then you can buff it. It's not bad. Now we get Beanstalk Worm. Is a 5/4 reacher that costs 5, and it's an adventure. On adventure side, it's a sorcery for 2. You may play an additional land this turn, and it's not bad. It's great in the Simic 5+ deck. Then we have Vantress Transmuter. It's a 3/4 that costs 4, so it's okay. It's just a human, that's normal. But on the flip side, as an adventure, it costs 2. Croaking Curse is a sorcery, tap target creature, and it becomes cursed. So it's decent for the other side, definitely. Stockpiling Celebrants is a 3/2 Dwarf Knight that costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you may return another target non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If you do, scry 2. You don't have to, so it's not bad. And then we get Prophetic Prism, which is a way to fix your mana. It costs 2 generic. It's an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and for 1 generic and tap it, you add 1 mana of any color. And then we get Commune with Nature. It's a sorcery. You pay 1 and look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest at the bottom of your library in any order. Very good to look at the top 5 cards. So it's really, really nice. I like it. And then Voracious Vermin, Stormkelp Prowler, Prophetic Prism, 2 in the same one. Eerie Interference is an instant. It's a fog. It costs 3. Prevent all damage to be dealt to you and creatures you control this turn by other creatures. Not bad. I'm not a huge fan of fog effects in general, but maybe limited might be okay. Then you get Troyan Gutsy Explorer. This is the Simic archetype poster boy. It's Jack and the Beanstalk. It's a 1/3 Veldalkin Scout that costs 3, and it's a legendary creature, and you can tap it to add Simic, except that you can only spend this mana on value 5 or greater spells, or with X in their mana cost, and for 1 blue and tap it, you draw a card, then discard a card. Extremely, extremely good card. If you see this on your opponent's side, you want to remove it ASAP, because otherwise it's going to enable their whole interaction in their deck. Then we have a Saga, Welcome to Sweet Tooth. It costs 2. On the first, you create a 1/1 white human creature token. Then on 2, you create a food token, and on 3, you put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of foods you control. So very synergistic for a food deck. Then we get Spiteful Hex Mage. It's a 3/2, costs 1 black. It's human warlock. Whenever it enters battlefield, you get to curse a creature you control. Basically, if you don't control any other creatures, it's a 1/1 for 1. But if you have a way to bargain away the curse roll, that's not bad. Then we get the Dragon Mantle, very good one. Then we 4. It's actually pretty good in drafting to use this. And then Suave and another food token. Almost done with the first third. This is the third to last of the first third. Then we get Bespoke Battle Garb, Stingblade Assassin, Curse of the Werefox, Spellstutter, very good counter, Frostbite Guard, Harriet Spear Guard, Return Triumphant. This is a sorcery, costs 2. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from the battlefield, and you create a young hero token roll attached to it. Very good, actually. Then we get Crystal Grotto, Leap in Ambush, Greta Sweet Tooth Scourge is a 3/3 human warrior that we've seen before in our pre-release. Very good, it has synergies with food token, absolutely. Then we get Cursed Courtier, which is a 3/3 human noble, costs 3. It has lifelink and enters the battlefield. You create a curse roll attached to it, so if you can sack it, it's not bad and enables bargain. And then Bitter Chill is an enchantment art, costs 2. When it enters the battlefield, you get to tap target enchanted creature, and this creature does not untap, and during this control untap steps, and when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you can pay 1, and if you do scry 1, draw a card. Absolutely great for the interaction. And we get Talion, the Kindly Lord. This is a 3/4 Fairy Noble Mythic. Honestly, we gotten so lucky with this one. It's a 2 coster and a Demir, so that's 4 in total. It's a legendary fairy. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, you get to choose a number between 1 and 10, and whenever an opponent casts a spell with mana value, power, or toughness equal to the value, choose a number. That player loses 2 life, you draw a card. Effectively, if you're playing this card, you don't know what your opponent is playing, you can just say 3 or 4, and you just block out their mid-range game. I wouldn't say 5 or 6 unless you know that they're going to be playing Simic a lot and you can't stop them. So this is a very good card, and honestly, we got really lucky. Then we get Garruk's Uprising again, and it's a great little card. And then Forest, useless token. Okay, second to last of the first third. So I hope you're enjoying this, and I hope you're enjoying your expansion experience. Then we get Candid Grapple, Return from the Wilds, which is a sorcery. You get to select 2, and it costs 3. Search your library for a basic line card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle, which allows you to enable the mana ramping. Search or create a 1/1 white human creature token, or create a food token. Very, very good little card. I like it, and enables a lot of decks. Sleight of Hand, Protective Parents. Whenever it dies, costs 3. It's a 3/2, but it dies and it creates a young hero roll to any creature you control. Grabby Giant, I like this one because he's not mean, he's just grabby. It's a 4/3 for 4. It has reach. You can tap 3, sacrifice an artifact or land to draw a card, and then create a treasure token on the adventure side for 2, and it's an instant. I actually like this for the create a treasure token, but also in the late game, if you're stuck and you have a lot of lands and you're land flooding, this allows you to effectively sack as many lands as you want and can to be able to just draw that many cards. It's a very good card. I like it. Then we get Monstrosity, Mocking Sprite is a 2/1 fairy rogue that costs 3, has flying, instant sorcery spell you cast, costs 1 generic class to cast. Very, very good card for limited. Then we get Kindled Heroism, Scream Puff. I love this one. Scream Puff with a scream. It's a 4/5 horror that costs 5. It has Death Touch, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you get to create a food token. Very, very good for food enablers decks. Howling Galefang, so before. Tough Cookie, very, very good card. Shrouded Shepherd is a 2/2 for 2. When it enters the battlefield, take a creature you control, gets +2/+2 until the end of turn. And in the adventure side, for black, Cleave Shadows, it costs 2. It's a sorcery. Creatures you control, creatures your opponents control, sorry, get -1/-1 until the end of turn. It's not bad in the end. There are better cards, but it's not bad in this combination. Then we get Pollen Shield Hare. This is a 2/2 rabbit that costs 2, and it's also an adventure. On the rabbit side, you get to have creature tokens you control, get +1/+1, and then on the adventure side, Hare Rising is a sorcery, it's green, it costs only 1, and target creature you control gains vigilance and gets +X/+X until the end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. This is very, very good for token decks, and yeah, in general, if you can splash it in, great. Otherwise, it's gonna be tough to play in limited, but it's very, very good. Raid Bombardment, this is a 3-caster and whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, it deals 1 damage to that player or planeswalker that creature is attacking, effectively making your rats extremely strong. Then we get a mountain and a monster roll token. Last one of the first third. Okay, we get Wicked Visitor as a 2/2 for 2. It's a nightmare that whenever an enchantment you control is put into graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. We've already seen it before. I forgot. Verdant Outrider into the Fake Court. This is a decent one that we've seen before. It allows you to draw cards and create fairy tokens. Armory Mice is a 3/1 celebration and costs 2. And if you celebrate, you get +0/+2 to this card, making it a 3/3. So it's actually not that hard to make a celebration deck, and it's fairly good. I've seen it at pre-release how strong it can be. Then we get Bellowing Bruiser, which is an adventure ogre, 4/4 haster and costs 5. And on the adventure side, it's a sorcery, beat a path. Of course, he beats a path. And it costs 3. And up to 2 target creatures can block this turn. Could be actually good. I like this, but it's only in certain decks. Rowan's Grim Search, seen this in our pre-release, very, very, very good card if you get it. Edgewall Pack, another very good card that synergizes with rats. Then we get Sugar Rush, Savior of the Sleeping, which is a 2/3 that costs 3. Vigilance, Human Knight. Whenever an enchantment you control is put into graveyard from the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counters on this. It's a tricky one if you have a lot of enchantment sacking, which, if I'm not mistaken, Orzhov is the archetype that does that. Then it's fairly good. Otherwise, then no. Then we get Ruby Daring Tracker, which is Little Red Riding Hood. Is a 1/2 human scout for Gruul. It has haste whenever it attacks. While you control a creature ferocious or power 4 or greater, it gets +2/+2 until the end of turn, and you can tap to add 1 red or 1 green. Very, very good for the Gruul deck. Taken by Nightmares. Monstrous Rage, which is an instant. It costs 1 red. Target creature gets +2/+0 until the end of turn, and you create a monster roll token attached to it, which is okay, not bad. Talion's Messenger is a 1/3 fairy noble that costs 3. It has flying, and whenever you attack with 1 or more fairies, you draw a card, then discard a card, and whenever you discard a card this way, you put a +1/+1 counter on target fairy you control. This is going to be used in the, well, if you want to, of course, in the Fairy Fey Dominion Commander deck. So you might want to keep a hold of this one if you see it, because it might be going a little bit up in price. And then otherwise, in limited, it's not bad if you synergize with fairies, of course. If not, Stab Wound. This actually is really annoying. This is a 3-coster enchantment aura that's black. Enchanted creature gets -2/-2, and at the beginning of your upkeep of enchanted creature's controller, not yours, that player loses 2 life. So because unless they have a way, to destroy the enchantment here, then they're just going to be losing 2 life at every upkeep, and this is insanely strong. I lost a game to this, and yeah, that's really strong. Then we get a Swamp and a Wicked Roll token. They didn't swap, by the way, in case you didn't notice, The Wicked and the Curse rolls, the images, they're not swapped. They said that they would have swapped them post-printing when they showed them in the previews, but it's not. So this is supposed to be the Wicked and this is supposed to be the Curse. Okay, we start with the second part of the unboxing of the second third. Now we go into the Snare Master Sprite, Rhyme for Reindeer, Cut In, very good damage spell that I would use, Hopeless Nightmare, Beanstalk Worm, Hamlet, Glutton, Besotted Knight, Grand Ball Guest, Spellscorn Cavern, which is a 2/3 fairy that we've seen in our pre-release, very good. Frolic and Familiar is actually pretty good. It's a 2/2 with Flying Otter Wizard, which I love. It's so adorable. And it costs only 3 as flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, it gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. And it's so good because it's not just the first one, so it can ramp up really big. And then on the adventure side, it's an instant that costs only 1. You blow off steam, deals 1 damage to any target. It can kill something really annoying, but at the same time, you can storm with it. So really good. Fairy Fencing, very good removal. It's really good if you control a fairy, so definitely in the Dimir deck because it's X and black. It's an instant. Target creature gets -X/-X until the end of turn, and it gets an extra -3/-3 on top of that X if you control a fairy when you cast this. Very good. Farsight Ritual, this is a forecaster instant. For bargain, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. If the spell was bargained for, you look at the top 8 cards of your library instead, and you can put 2 of them in your hand and the rest at the bottom of the library in any order. We did see this in our pre-release. Then we get a ley line. Finally, I was wondering if we will start seeing any of the ley lines. This is the one of abundance, and if you didn't know, the ley lines, if you have them in your hand at the beginning of the game, then you can start the game with this in the battlefield straight up. And then it says that whenever you tap a creature for mana, you add an additional green mana, which could be good in the ramp of the Simic deck. And then for 6, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Again, could be good in the ramp Simic deck. Then we get a Shrouded Shepherd and foil, and a Plains and a food token. Stop. We get Vantress Transmuter, Stockpiling Celebrant, Flick a Coin for your Witcher, Burrow, Naughty, Ferocious Werefox, which is really good. It's a 4/3/4/4 trample Elf Fox Warrior on one side, and then on the other is an adventure for instant that costs only 2, and it creates a monster role token attached to target creature you control. I really like it. I feel like the adventures have been toned down quite significantly in this expansion compared to the original Eldraines, but why not? Water Wings, not bad. Not that after all. This is really, really good. I've seen it used really well. It allows to save your creature, and basically it's an instant and it's black. Until the end of turn, target creature you control gains. When this creature dies, you return in the battlefield under its owner's control, then create a wicked rule attached to it, effectively make it undying. I wonder if this is going to be used in Modern actually, because there are some scam decks that could benefit from it. Next, we get Moment of Valor. It's an instant, it costs 3, which is a 1. It's either untap target creature, it gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until the end of turn, or destroy target creature power 4 or greater. So this is one of the white removals. Not bad. Skewer Slinger, Godric's First Duel. This is a saga and it's blue. It costs 2. On the first step, you create a curse roll token attached to up to 1 target creature. Then on the second, you scry 2. Then on the third, when you cast your next instant sorcery spell with mana value 3 or less, this turn you copy a spell. You may choose new targets for that copy. So effectively very good for Izzet or blue decks. Oh, and then we get Corval the Noble Thief, two adventures all in one go. Then we get Knight of the Doves and Fawn's Bane Troll. This is a 4/4/4/4 with Golgari. That's a troll. When it enters the battlefield, you create a monster roll, a token attached to it. Okay, so it's a 5/5 effectively with trample, and then for 1 and sacrifice an aura attached to it. It fights target creature you don't control, and if that creature would die, you exile it, and you can only activate this. So sorcery, very good actually for standard. I don't know if it's going to be and limited as well. I don't know if it's going to be used anywhere else, but it's fairly good. Intangible Virtue is a 2-caster enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance, and then you get a swamp and a beast. And I really love this beast art. It does look like one of those tapestry art. This is so beautiful. That's my favorite beast token art for sure. Okay, next up, let's see what do we get. Spell Stutter, Ram for Reindeer, Bespoke Battle Garb, Shatter the Oath, Return from the Wild, Spider Food, Break the Spell, Minstrosity, which I love the flavor in that one, literally, Royal Treatment, High Fae Negotiator, we've seen this in our pre-release, extremely strong, Stroke of Midnight, very, very good, and Spyful Hexmage once more, Grasp of Fate, seen it before. Ooh, wow, okay, now that I will take. This is a foil Greater Auramancy. This is insane. Honestly, this is an amazing card, and it's foil. It's an enchantment that costs 2, and other enchantments you control have Shroud, and enchanted creatures you control have Shroud. This is an amazing card to have, and in foil, holy moly, that's insane. Then we get Plains and a mouse token. Very nice. Aw, very cute. Wow, we've gotten so lucky with this draft. It's insanely good. Wow. Next up, what do we get? We have Ice Out, which is a great little counter spell, and we've seen it before. It's wonderful. Protective Parents, Torch the Tower, Rat Out, and Sky Beast Tracker, Sleight of Hand, Kindled Heroism, Johan's Stopgap, Gingerbrute, Soul Guide Lantern, Tempest Heart. We've not seen this one. It's a 3/4 Trample Elemental Elk that costs 4. That's also an adventure. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, which is really cool. And also the art is amazing. And then on the adventure side, you get Scan the Clouds for 2. It's an instant, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Very good, I like this one. Tattered Ratter, this is a 2/2 for 2, already very good. And when a rat you control becomes blocked, it gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. Amazing for the Rakdos deck. Then we get Rankle's Prank. This is a sorcery, it costs 4, and it has all the abilities of Rankle multiplied by 2. So you choose one or more. Each player discards 2 cards, or each player loses 4 life, or each player sacrifices 2 creature. Then we get Dark Tutelage and a Swamp, and oh, Elemental Token. That's really beautiful, really nice. Okay, so we've gotten really lucky so far. Absolutely wonderful pulls. Cooped Up, Harry's Spear Guard, and honestly, the art and the flavor in this set is just amazing. The art in the Enchanting Tales is gorgeous. Sweet Tooth Witch, Brave the Wild, Obira's Attendant, Leaping Ambush, Mocking Sprite, Toadstool Admirer, Fairy Dream Thief, which I think is fairly good. It's a 1/1 for 1, has flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to surveil 1, and then if you get to have it go into the graveyard, you can exile it from graveyard, drawing a card, losing a life. So I like this one in the fairy deck, of course. Albira Dreaming Duelist, very good. Pick Luck Prankster is a 1/3 Flying Vigilance Fairy Rogue. It costs 2, and then on the adventure side, it costs 2, and it's an instant. You mill 4 cards, then put an instant sorcery or fairy card among the mill cards into your hand. It's okay. Wow. What the hell? Okay, I mean, yep. Sure, please give me more. Virtue of Loyalty. This is a great enchantment. We've seen it in our pre-release. We were so fortunate to get it there, even though I didn't manage to use it, unfortunately. But this is in the showcase version, so this is in the adventure showcase. Really beautiful, beautiful. Oh my god, we gotten so lucky with this one. It's insane. Then we get Griffin Airy, which is a 2-caster enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, you create a 2/2 white Griffin creature token, which could be good if you synergize with the food part. Then we get Fell Horseman in foil, and a Swampy Swamp, and another one of those beautiful beast tokens. Almost halfway through our second third. As you see, we're starting to pick up a little bit. Frostbridge Guard, Redcap Thief, Stingblade Assassin, Curse of the Werefox, Misleading Motes, Voracious Vermin, Crystal Grotto, Commune with Nature, Stormkel Prowler, Area Stamped in Apple. Very, very, very good card in Limited. I was really surprised. It does so many things and synergizes with so many things. Very good. Sherry, and of Numbing Debts. This is a 4-caster Merfolk Wizard that is Azorius. It's a 2/3. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stand counter on it. And then whenever you tap one or more untapped creatures an opponent controls, draw a card. And this ability triggers only once each turn, unfortunately. It's not bad if you have the tapping in Azorius. That's a card to get, of course. Princess Takes Flight, which is a saga. It costs 3 on the first step. You exile up to 1 target creature, can be your creature. And then for the second step, target creature you control gets +2/+2 and flying until the end of turn. Then on the third, you return the exiled card under the battlefield under its owner's control. This turn. Yeah, so basically it's okay. It's not the greatest. I wouldn't write home about it. Ingenious Prodigy is a 0/1 human wizard that costs X and a blue. It has Skulk, so this is creature cannot be blocked by creatures with power greater. Okay, and then if you put it at 1/1, it's actually not bad because there aren't a lot of 1/1 unless you're counting some tokens. And it's not even the rat, so it's not bad. Enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you, if it has one or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may remove a counter from it. And if you do, you can draw a card. So this is a very, very good card to enable a lot of things. That we get Copy Enchantment. This is a beautiful art. And it costs 3, it's blue, and you may have Copy Enchantment in the battlefield as a copy of any enchantment on the battlefield. And then we get a forest and a rat token. This is the first rat token I see that have finally. Okie dokie. Next up, what will we get? Really beautiful, really lucky so far. Hopeful Vigil, Frantic Fireball, Candy Grapple, Verdant Outrider, Merfolk Coralsmith, Arius Whisper, which is actually really not bad, and it's definitely one of the better control cards, and it's really annoying. Return Triumphant, Scream Puff, Bestial Bloodline. I've not seen this one before. It's a 2-caster enchantment aura that's green. And so the creature gets +2/+2, and for 5, you can return this card from the graveyard to your hand. It's okay. If you're playing a ramp deck and you have nothing else, it's okay. Otherwise, meh. Boundary Lands Ranger, absolutely a great card for the ferocious decks, but in general, if you know that you're gonna have quite a few 4 or greater creatures, it's not a bad one, and we've seen it in our pre-release. Then we get Picnic Ruiner, which is a 2/2 goblin rogue that costs 2. That has, whenever it attacks while you control a ferocious creature, it gains double strike until the end of turn, which is extremely good. Can't stress it enough, and it's a staple for the Gruul deck. And then for Stolen Goodies on the adventure side, it's a green sorcery, and you distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among any number of target creatures you control. And you can play this first and then this one second because it can get easily double strike then. Tenacious Stoneseeker is a 3/2 human knight that costs 3. It has bargain when it's battlefield. If it was bargained for, return target instant sorcery card from graveyard to your hand. Very good for a lot of decks. And wow, another great one, another mythic. This is insane. Usually we don't get this lucky with mythic. So this is Asinine Antics. This is a 4-caster sorcery. You may cast it as though it had flash. If you pay 2 generic more, making it a 6-caster. And for each creature your opponents control, you create a curse roll token attached to that creature. I think this is going to be very good in Commander. It could be even good in draft for sure. I'm not saying no, it's a decent card for limited, but in Commander, I think this is gonna make a definite splash for sure. So this is a great card to have and wonderful. Then we get Knightly Valor. It's an enchantment aura. It costs 5, and when it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance, and then each other creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance, which is okay. And then you get a forest and a fairy with this creature can only block flying. Okay, almost done with the first part. We get Charm Clothier, Minecraft Daredevil. It's actually Minecraft, sorry, I always say Minecraft. Rowan's Grim Search, Territory Witch Stalker, Living Lantern, Twin Veil Guide, Aquatic Alchemist, Scarecrow Guide, Witch's Mark, which is a sorcery, costs 2. You may discard a card. If you do, you draw 2 cards. So you ramage for 2, and you create a Wicked Roll token attached to up to 1 target creature you control. Actually, fairly good. Then you get Knight of Sweet's Revenge, The Witch's Vanity, extremely good saga. Limited Recruiter, and then we get Questing Druid. It's an adventure creature. It's a 1/1 that costs 2, and whenever you cast a spell that's white, blue, black, or red, so anything other than green, you put a +1/+1 counter on Questing Druid, and it's a green creature, so it wants to play with any of the other colors. And for red on the adventure side, Seek the Beast. It's an instant adventure. Exile the top 2 cards of your library until the next end step. You may play those cards. Very nice, actually. Yeah, it's interesting. Definitely not something that is super strong in limited unless there's synergy with it in your deck. But yeah, then we get our Garruk's Uprising, a Swamp, and a Ratty Rat token. And here we go. Okay, Unruly Catapult, which actually is not bad if you're playing a lot of spells. Warehouse Tabby is a card that we've seen before in our pre-release, but I think this is actually a silent sleeper. I think a lot of people have like kind of said meh, but the amount of times that I've been able to I either get rats on my side of the board or just go to face because I left 2 up for the Death Touch ability. Yeah, it's a lot. Root Rider Fawn, great card. It's a 1/3 that costs 2. And it's a Satyr Scout, and you tap to add 1 green, and then you tap 1 generic and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. Very, very good. If you're playing anything with green, it's definitely worth it, especially if you splash. Into the Fairy Court, Kellen's Light Blades, which is an instant, costs 2. You can bargain for it. It deals 3 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, and instead, if you bargain, you destroy that creature. So it's very, very good if you bargain for it. Hamlet Glutton, Unassuming Sage is a 2/2 for 2 human peasant wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may pay 2 generic, and if you do, you create a sorcerer roll attached to it. Actually, not bad. It's a 3/3 for 4 that allows you to scry 1 whenever you attack, so it's not bad. Plunge into Winter, Fell Horseman, Neva Stalk by Nightmares. This is the keepsake for the Ores of archetype. It's a human noble with 2/2 that costs 4 and is Ores of Menace. Whenever it enters the battlefield, return target creature or enchantment card from graveyard to your hand, and whenever enchantment you control is put into the graveyard to the battlefield, you can put a +1/+1 counters on Neva and then scry 1, so it's very good for that synergy. Ashiok's Reaper and Tough Cookie, and we get Gruff Triplet. Now this is an amazing card for drafting. It costs 6. It's a 3/3 with Trample, C2 Warrior. It has 3 green pips, so it's not easy to cast. You need to have mana fixing for it, and when it enters the battlefield, if it isn't a token, you create 2 tokens that are copies of it, and when it dies, you put any number of counters that are +1/+1 equal to the power of each creature you control named Gruff Triplets. So yeah, this is really good. One dies, the other ones become 6/6, another one dies, the leftover becomes a 9/9. Extremely good card. And then we get Repercussion, another mythic. This is a 3 caster with 2 red pips, and whenever creatures deal damage, Repercussions deals damage to each creature, to that creature's controller. Very good. I like this one. And then we get a Swamp and a Mousy Mouse. Okay, next up, what do we get? Grabby Giant, Conceited Witch, which is great. Get it? It's a 2/3 Menace Adventure Witch, and costs only 3. So on this side, it's extremely good. And then on the Adventure side, it's a sorcery for 1 black. You create a Wicked Roll token attached to target creature you control. Absolutely a wonderful card. A great common for limited. Ferocious Werewolf, Snare Master Sprite, Armory Mice, Penny Trail. This is a food and a clue artifact. It costs only 1 generic. When it enters the battlefield, you get to scry 2, and you can sack it to gain 3 life and draw a card. I really think this is really good for the any synergy with the food deck. Savior of Sleeping, Red Tooth Gynecologist, Freeze in Place. Oh, again, after the Gynecologist. Eerie Interference, Hearth Elemental, Lore Skitter's Butcher. This is a 2/3 Rat Peasant. It costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you can choose 1. Create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature cannot block, or you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, scry 2, draw a card. Creatures you control gain menace until the end of turn. Very good card. And of course, to stay in theme with the red deck, as I was saying, is very good for the red deck. You get Lord Skitter's Blessing, which is 1 generic and 1 black enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you create a Wicked Roll to attach to a target creature you control, and then at the beginning of your draw step, if you control an enchanted creature, you lose a life and you draw an additional card. Effectively, this is a Phyrexian Arena. Very nice and limited. I wonder if they're going to be playing this in Commander, because yeah, it's a bit cheaper. Anyways, Shared Animosity costs 3, and whenever a creature you control attacks, it gets +1/+0 until the end of turn for each other attacking creature that shares a creature type with it. Very good in human decks and knights decks for Commander. And then also same thing for the limited for the rats. It's definitely gonna be annoying there. Now we get Merry Bards, Feed the Cauldron, Botanic Growth, a classic, Ice Out, Slumbering Keep Guard, Edgewool Pack, Quick Study, Sugar Rush, Chancellor of Tales. This is a 2/3 Fairy Advisor that costs 4, has flying, and whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy it and you may choose new targets of this copy. In the end, it's a 2/3 for 4 with flying. It's okay for that. It's definitely decent if you want to play fairies and Dimir control or any kind of control, but on top of that, if you synergize with the adventure set, side, this is going to be extremely strong. Up the beanstalk, there goes Jack. And Jack apparently has Little Red Riding Hood and Greta on the back. Okay, cool. When Up the Beanstalk enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, you get to draw a card. Extremely good in a Simic deck. And you get Ash, the Party Crasher, which is a 2/2 human peasant for Boros, and it's a Celebration Haster. Really good. We've seen it before. Then we get the Huntsman's Redemption, which is Garruk's Redemption. And this costs 3. It's a Saga enchantment, and on the first step, you get a great, you heard it, a green, 3/3 green beast creature token. And then on the second one, you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you search your library for a creature or basic land card, reveal it, put it in your hand. Effectively, it's a tutor for land or a creature. And then on the third one, up to 2 target creatures, each get +2/+2 and gain trample until you have turn. Fairly decent. It's not the best kind of like pack one, pick one, but it's decent. Then we get the Season of Growth. This is a classic. And Balloonist Gatekeeper, that is on foil, and then a mountain and a useless token. Okay, last one of the second third. Bellowing Bruiser, Wicked Visitor, Troublemaker Oof, the Miniature Witch, Cooped Up, Evolving Wilds, Ratcatcher Trainee, Knowing Crescendo, which we have not seen before. It's an instant, it costs 3. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until the end of turn. Whenever a non-token creature you control does this turn, you create a black rat token. It's not bad, actually. It's if you know that you're gonna go, if you have a rat token deck and you know you're gonna go to the face, this actually helps. Although it's non-token, so you have to know that the non-token creature is gonna die. So it's always a iffy one. Moment of Valor, Collector's Vote. This is an extremely good card for limited. Costs 2 generic, it's an artifact for 2 generic, and tap it. You don't even have to sacrifice this. You loot and create a treasure token. This is insanely good. It's actually kind of like a rare. It's a silent rare. This Bat for Seconds is a sorcery, it costs 3. It has bargain. Return up to 2 target creature cards from graveyard to your hand, and if it was bargained for, instead you may put one of those cards, mana value 4 or less, onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. Twisted Fealty, absolutely great. It saved me a lot in pre-release. Then we get Thunder's Debut. It's a 6 cost of sorcery that with bargain. It's not that hard to cast 6 if you build the Simic deck right. Then you look at the top 20 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them. This spell was bargained for. You put the real cards onto the battlefield. Otherwise, you put the reveal cards into your hand, then shuffle. And so it's okay for the Simic deck ramp, but it's not the greatest. Then we get Vampiric Rites, which costs only 1, and for 1 and 1 black, sacrifice a creature, you gain a life and draw a card. So it's a good stack outlet, and then an island and a roll token. Okay, now we're moving on to the last part, last third. Here we go. Unruly Catapult, Rat Out, Brave the Wilds, Balloonist Gatekeeper, Archon's Glory, Flick a Coin for the Witcher, Break the Spell, Skewer Slinger, Spider Food, Embereth Veteran, Tanglespan Lookout, Witchstalker Frenzy, and a Raging Battle Mouse once more with a Grasp of Fate once more, and a Swampy Swamp and a food. Okay, so now we're speeding up as we've seen most of the uncommons as well, and almost all of the commons that we reckon. And we get Shatter the Oath, Hollow Scavenger, Merfolk Coralsmith, Hopeful Vigil, Torch the Tower, Not Dead After All, and Besotted Knight, Return Triumphant, Gramble Guest, Disdainful Stroke, Cheeky House Mouse, Edgewell Inn. We've not seen it before. This is a land fixer. Actually, not too bad, but not the greatest. As a battlefield tap, you choose a color, you add 1 mana of the chosen color, and then for 3, sack it, and return target card that has adventure from graveyard to your hand. It's not bad, not the best mana fixing for sure. Then we get Twining Twins, which is a 4/4 Fairy Wizard for 4. Already, that's great. Has Flying, Vigilance, and War 1. Insane. Now, on top of that, with Swift Spiral on the white side, it's an instant adventure. And it costs only 2. Exile target non-token creature, return it to battlefield under its owner's controls at the beginning of the next end step. So it's quite good. Has a save your own permanent kind of thing, and then you just ward yourself with these Twining Twins. It's amazing card. I really like it. Then we get Impact Tremors again, and a Plains and a Toki token. Okay, Hopeless Nightmare and Sky Beast Tracker, Misleading Moats, Twin Veil Guide, Redcap Thief, Commune with Nature, Mocking Sprite, Ariet's Whisper, Galvanic Giant, and this is the first time we see this one, is a 3/3 creature that costs 4, That's a giant wizard. Whenever you cast a spell with 5 mana value or greater, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. So that's really, really good with the synergy of the Simic. Then on the adventure side, it costs 7, and it's an instant adventure. Draw 4 cards, discard 2 cards. That's a bit too expensive for that side, but the other one's not bad. Two-headed hunter. This is a great adventure creature. 5/4 Menacer that costs only 5. It's insanely good. And then on top of that, on the adventure side, it's an instant. It costs 2. Still red. Target creature gains double strike until the end of turn, so it's definitely a good one and I would definitely play it. Then we get the gingerbread hunter. As a 5/5 for 5. When it enters the battlefield, you create a food token, and it's an adventure as well. It synergizes with the food side because it's the Golgari colors that you want. It's a puny snack instant that is black, and target creature gets -2/-2 until the end of turn. Very good. I like it. Oh, wow. And then we get Ashiok, the Wicked Manipulator, yet another mythic. Wow, insanely lucky on this one. So this is the only Planeswalker of the set. Remember, Planeswalkers have been desparked since the breaking of the Aftermath, and desparking means that they've lost all Planeswalker abilities, but Ashiok somehow has obtained theirs and maintained theirs. It's a 5 loyalty that costs 5 as a legendary Planeswalker. Now, if you would pay life while your library has at least that many cards in it, exile that many cards from the top of your library instead. Then you can +1 loyalty to look at the top 2 cards of your library, exile one of them, put the other one in your hand. For -2, you create 2 1/1 Black Nightmare creature tokens with at the beginning of combat on your turn. If a card was put into exile this way, you put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. And then for -7, target player exiles the top X cards of the library, where X is the total amount of value of cards you own in exile. This is a tricky one. I don't know if I would play it in limited, maybe as a sideboard kind of thing. And overall, of course, it's gonna go with some really weird deck interaction, so I don't know how good it is. You get Oversoul Cemetery, which is a classic. It goes to, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 4 more creature cards in your graveyard, you may return target creature card from graveyard to your hand. Actually decent if you build around it, so it's quite a good card. Then we get Treadbiting Click and the foil and an island and a monster roll. Okay, going on, continuing on. We've only gotten 1 anime art so far out of the whole box, so that's interesting to see the rate. Of course, 1 box does not define the whole rates, but if you open a case or 2 cases and you see that draft boosters don't have that many, then yeah. Burrow Naughty, it's a 1/3 fairy. Stockpiling Celebrant, Prophetic Prism, Ginger Brute, Leaping Ambush, Johan Stopgap, Dream Spoilers. This is a 2/2 fairy warlock that costs 4. Has flying whenever you cast a spell during your opponent's turn. Up to 1 target creature an opponent gets -1/-1 until the end of turn. So this wants you to interact with your opponent on their turn as a control. Deck Splashy Spellcaster, Totna's Swarm Piper, very good card. Spell the Interlopers. This is a buy a box promo as well. It's not a bad card at all. It costs 5, it's a sorcery. You choose a number between 0 and 10. Destroy all creatures with power greater than or equal to choose a number. So therefore, if your opponents have some big creatures and you have small creatures, this is a great removal. Overall, it's just a great board wipe. And then we get Dragon Mantle and Spellbook Vendor in the foil. This is a 2/2 human peasant that costs 2. Has vigilance, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay 1 generic, and when you do, you create a sorcerer roll token attached to target creature you control. Not a bad card at all. And then Swamp and Food. Okay, then we get Bespoke Battlegarb, Stingblade Assassin, Curse of the Werefox, Spell Stutter, Frostbridge Guard, Monstrosity, Kindled Heroism, Toadstool Admirer, Voracious Vermin, Archive Dragon, Discerning Financier, spoilers, Agatha's Champion, and the Goose Mother. It's great to see this angry goose. As a 2/2 bird Hydra that costs X and Simic and has flying. When it enters the battlefield, it does so with X +1/+1 counters on it. And when it enters the battlefield, you create half of X food tokens rounded up. And whenever it attacks, you may sacrifice a food, you may draw a card. If you do, very, 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 very good card. If you can build for it, definitely great. And we get Ground Seal, cost 2 as an enchantment. Whenever it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and cards in graveyards cannot be targets of spells and or abilities. And then we get a mountain and a royal token. Next up, what do we get? We're almost there. We're almost at the end. We have 7 boosters, including this one. Harried Spearguard, Candid Grapple, Return from the Wild, Sleight of Hand, Protective Parents, Crystal Grotto, Stormkilled Prowler, Water Wings, Sugar Rush, Woodland Acolyte, which we've not seen before, is a 2/2 that costs 3, human cleric, and it's an adventure creature as well. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card, and then on the adventure side, it's green. It's an instant. You cost 1, Mend the Wilds. Put target permanent card from your graveyard on top of your library. It's not the greatest one. There's better. Curse Courtier, Callous Sellsword. This is a great one. It's a 2/2 human soldier that costs 2. And when it enters the battlefield, it does so with a +1/+1 counter for each creature that died under your control this turn. And then for the adventure side, it is in 1 red. It's a sorcery. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any other target. Then sacrifice it. Very, very, very good for this color combination. Then we get Farsight Ritual again. Ooh, and Necropotence in the anime version. This is beautiful. Wow, that's lucky. Necropotence is a beautiful card. If you weren't there at the beginning of the inception of Ice Age, there were some really, really, really good decks back then with their Necropotence. This is a great enchantment. It is 3 black pips. You skip your draw steps, and whenever you discard a card, you exile a card instead, and then you pay 1 life to exile the top card of your library face down. You put that card in your hand at the beginning of your end step. So yeah, it's a great little card, and it's a classic. It is a very, very big trap to play in limited though, so be careful if you're playing in limited. I would advise you to keep it on a sideboard, because if you're against really aggressive decks, you're going to screw yourself over if you play this one, but it's insanely good. Then we get a forest and a food token. Next up we get Grabby Giant, Conceited Witch, Titanic Growth, Luna's Gatekeeper, Kellen's Blightblades, Aquatic Alchemist, Hamlet Glutton, Fell Horseman, Red-Toothed Gynecologist, 3 Bowls of Porridge. Okay, this is interesting. It's an artifact and a food, and you can pay to tap it and choose one that hasn't been chosen. Either it deals 2 damage to target creature, or tap target creature, or you sacrifice it to get 3 life because it's a food. It only costs 2. Very, very good, actually. Like it. Glass Casket makes a return. Wonderful little artifact. It's a prison effect, so it's really good. Stormcare Vanguard is a giant warrior that's 6/7 for 6, and on the creature side, it can be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, and then it's also an adventure with Bear Down Sorcery that's also green that costs 2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Actually, in this set, it's not a bad card at all if you play the color combination. Then we get Restless Cottage, which is one of the restless lands. This is the Golgari combination, and it's extremely good for limited. It enters the battlefield tapped, and then you tap to add any of the Golgari colors, and then for 4, it becomes a 4/4 black green horror creature until the end of turn, and it's still a land. And then whenever it attacks, you create a food token, exile up to 1 target card from graveyard. Extremely, extremely good for the Golgari deck. And yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see which ones of these actually are gonna make a splash into Constructed. Then we get Ley Line of Lightning, the red Ley Line. Now, the first part is similar to every other Ley Line, but whenever you cast a spell, you may pay 1 generic, and if you do, it deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. And then a swamp and a nightmare token. These are the nightmares created by Ashiok. Okay, we only have 5 more to go. Okay, we get the Minecart Daredevil, Sweet Tooth Witch, Root Rider Fawn, Living Lectern, Archon's Glory, Bestial Bloodline, Quick Study, Candy Trail, Beautiful Griffin, which is interesting. It's a 4/4 for 5 with flying, which is great in and of itself. And then for 2 generic and 1 white, you sacrifice 2 enchantments, you return it from graveyard to your hand. So it's a persistent one. I like it just as a white creature with flying. Then we get Belligerent of the Ball instead of the Bell of the Ball. It's a 3/3 Ogre Warrior that costs 3, has Celebration, and if you've celebrated, then target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains menace until the end of turn. Very, very good for the Celebration deck. And then Sir Armand. Then we get Rotisserie Elemental. It's a 1/1 Elemental with menace, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you put a obscure counter on it, and then you may sacrifice it. And if you do, you exile the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of obscure counters on Elemental, and you may play those cards this turn. It's meh. I mean, you have to sacrifice it whenever you put a skewer counter, so that's when you have to sacrifice it. And yeah, it could be okay, but it's not first pack, first pick for sure. Griffin Airy, And Ray Bombardment in foil. Beautiful. And then an island and a royal token. So yeah, I don't think the Rotisserie Elemental is all that great. Definitely if you get it in your boxings, it might be okay. Maybe in some fun decks. Frantic Firebolt, Warehouse Stabby, Troublemaker, Oof, Obira's Attendants, Slumbering Keep Guard, Scream Puff, Freeze in Place, Savior of the Sleepin', Scarecrow Guide, Solitary Sanctuary. This is an enchantment. It costs 3. When it enters the battlefield, you tap target creature an opponent controls, put a stun counter on it, and then whenever you tap an untapped creature an opponent controls, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature control. It synergizes with the Azurius deck, Twisted Sewer Witch, Cherry of Numbing Depths, and Extraordinary Journey is double X and double blue enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you exile X target creatures. For each of those cards, its owners may play it for as long as it remains exiled, and whenever one or more non-land creatures enter the battlefield, if one or more of them entered from exile or was cast from exile, you get to draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's okay, it's very expensive and not great for limited. I wonder if somebody's going to make a decent deck in Commander for it. Grasp of Fate, Plains, and a Beast. Okay, the last 3, come on. Wonderful unboxing so far. I love this set. It's really fun, and I really like the cards and theme. Cut in, of course, the art is amazing. Wicked Visitor, Verdant Outrider, Into the Fate Court, Armory Mice, Bellowing Bruiser, Edgeroll Pack, Plunge into Winter, Unassuming Mage, Tempest Heart, Soul Guide Lantern, Stroke of Midnight, that's our 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. And Sir Ginger, the Meal Ender, is a legendary artifact creature food knight, so it's also food. It's a 3/1 that costs 2, and it has trample, hexproof, and haste as long as the opponent controls a planeswalker. Okay, so this is not going to happen anytime soon in limited. And whenever another artifact or you control is put into graveyard from battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on Sir Ginger and scry 1, and then for 2 and sack it. You gain life equal to its power. So definitely a full combination deck. Who loves this for sure. Then get Ray Bombardment and a mountain and a food. Okay, we're almost at the close. Rowan's Green Search, Territorial Witch Stalker, the Miniature Witch, Charm Clothier, Mary Bards, Witch's Mark, Evolving Wilds, Ratcatcher Trainee, Knowing Crescendo, Johan Apprentice Sorcerer, which we saw in our little pre-release, Bitter Chill, Welcome to Sweet Tooth, and A Tale for the Ages. This is an enchantment that costs 2. Enchanted creatures you control get +2/+2, and then another Stab Wound, and a Forest, and a useless token. And then the last one, let's go, let's see what do we get. Hopefully you've enjoyed this unboxing with me, you've stuck through the end. I thank you very much if you have. I know these are a bit longer, but we do love dropping into the set proper. Now we get Feed the Cauldron, Hollow Scavenger, Snare Master Sprite, Rhyme for Reindeer, Cut In, Moment of Valor, Not Dead After All, Ariet's Whisper, Howling Gleofang, Greta Sweet Tooth Scourge, Succumb to the Cold. This is an instant, cost 3. Tap 1 or 2 targets on target creatures on opponent controls. You put a stun counter on each of them. And the last rare is Red Cup Gutter Dweller and Oversoul Cemetery. And then we get a foil Warehouse Abbey and a mountain and a monster roll token. So that is it. That wraps it up for our draft boosters unboxing. It is very interesting. The print quality on this one, the foils are extremely dark, and it kind of follows suit with the last expansion. We got extremely lucky. We had a lot of mythics and a lot of good cards. Definitely not something that you see with every draft unboxing. And yeah, other than that, we really enjoyed it. Make sure to let us know in the comments down below what you're most excited about. What were your pulls in your own draft unboxing if you've opened one? And if you like what we do, please make sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, as it does help small channels like ours a lot. And we'll see you in the next videos where we'll be unboxing their remaining sealed products for the Throne of Eldraine. Until then, this was Scotty and I. We wish you a lovely day, a blessed day. Be good, be kind, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye!